What's up, everybody? We are back again. Another week. Last week, like we've been having, 3 wins, 2 losses, brings the total to 21 wins, 18 losses, 1 tie after picking 40 games this year. I'm not too upset about it. The random number generator lost their pick. That has been a really good all year. I think it's only lost once or twice all year. And then the other pick was the Titans that lost. That was the third pick I did. I was really back and forth, couldn't really figure out what I wanted. The Bengals might be legit. Might be legit to underdogs to be taken, especially when they're at home, getting some points. I don't know how many more upsets or different things they're going to pull. Maybe the Titans aren't that good. I don't know. But not that upset. Still sitting right in the 30s, top 10 cash in the pool. So I think I'm okay. So let's get into week 9. So the first pick, we know the first pick. It won again last week, betting against the Jets. So we're betting against the Jets with the first pick automatically, which is the Patriots -7 on Monday Night Football. The number isn't even that bad. I thought maybe in the pool it was going to be 7.5 or 8. Yes, the Patriots have been playing bad, but, one thing that Belichick knows is how to play teams in his own division, how to attack them, how to, it's Adam Gase, man. You don't think Belichick knows the defensive scheme to stop Adam? Like, it's been so long. It's autoplay anyway, but I still feel super comfortable about it. And then into the picks. So the first pick that really stuck out to me that I really liked was the Ravens. They're playing against the Colts. They're coming off that game. Steelers, Steelers was a pick last week. Loved the Steelers. They were getting points, and then they ended up winning it outright. But honestly, like the Ravens didn't look terrible the entire time. It was kind of like a weird weather game, and different things were going on, and I think Mark Ingram was out, and I don't know, maybe their flow was. It honestly, I thought. I had the Steelers, and I thought that the Ravens were going to win, but the Steelers were going to cover. And surprised to see that they lose it at the end, And the line only being 2.5 is so, odd. The Colts, meanwhile, they won 41-20. Don't get me wrong there, okay? But at one point or another, they're up 20-14, okay? And Detroit is driving, about to make it 21-20, after they kick the extra point. And I think it was a pick or a fumble, goes the other way. They score in the drive, and then the next drive, 3 and out, boom, they score. It was just like dagger down the throat. But the Colts weren't looking outstanding. And interesting if Jonathan Taylor is hurt or Jordan Wilkins got a lot of. I like the Ravens -2.5. I think it's a really good number. Another good 2.5 number, which I like, and his pick number 2 is the Washington football team. They're playing the Giants. The Giants already got the better of them in the first time that they matched up. But, I think they've really started to come together a little bit more. The Giants are just... It's tough, man. The Giants are just a crazy team of keeping it so close and then losing it. I just think that Washington's playing much better. I thought the line was going to be 3.5, 4. When I saw 2.5, I was in shock. Those picks I love. Those are... 2 picks I really, really like. Then going into this last pick, didn't know what I really wanted to take. It's tough looking at the board. Not a lot of things popped out at me. A lot of things were kind of sketchy. You wanted to stay away. But, a team that's actually been pretty hot lately is the Falcons. Yes, they lost to Detroit 2 weeks ago by 1 point, but they beat the shit out of the Vikings when they needed to in the first win of the year. Last week, they played on Thursday Night Football, and honestly, they looked way better than I thought that they were going to look against Carolina, a Carolina team that they've already lost to earlier in the year, and they came out and played great. So now you're getting them on extra rest, and they're going to come out and play. Sorry about that. Against the Broncos, and the Broncos were a pick of mine last week. But the Broncos came from the dead to beat the Chargers, and the Broncos honestly looked really bad in that game. The fourth quarter was really good. I don't know if it's going to carry the momentum, but on extra rest, I like the Falcons. They're just going on a little run here. A little mini run where they're going to win a couple games, kind of screw up their draft spot. But it's -3.5. But I'm comfortable with the number. I think they win by 6 or 7. Not too worried about it. So then finally, as the last pick, we have to do the random number generator, and it came out for the Raiders. I actually kind of like the Raiders in the spot. They're playing against the Chargers, who we just talked about, and how sketchy they've been. You've heard it on the news or anywhere you listen to. They've blown a 17-point lead or 16-point lead in 4 straight games. They lost 3 of them when they blown it. So it's are they really better than what they are? Oakland they're just a weird team. They play really good. Last week you can't say anything. They were playing in like a monsoon and they won the game. Not that mad about that randomized pick, but it is what it is. So pick one against the Jets. That is the Patriots. Then we have the Ravens -2.5. We have the Redskins or Washington football team -2.5. And then we have the Falcons -3.5. Random number generator, close it. Raiders, pick 'em. Those are the 5 for week 9. All right, guys, second half of the show today. I thought I'd just kind of have some little blurps, little things someone reminded me of recently, or just kind of like the day of the life or random stuff you see in the unit that, I don't really know where else I could fit in the story. Also got an interesting comment on the video last week. I don't know anyone who saw it. It was from someone named John Nelson. Thank you for your comment. Your sentence looks tough. You had a 5-year sentence and you got out after a year and a half. That means you're going to be on delayed parole, you said, release for 3.5 years, right? Damn. Drug class. Okay. So, interesting. So, yours isn't as strict as mine, and, I think a little bit of the difference with mine, especially when I was on parole, was that I was on parole for a year and 3 months. And in that time, I went to 4 different counties. So, it's like every time when I don't know the parole officer. Parole officer doesn't know me. They don't know if I'm a scumbag. They deal with scumbags 24/7. 25/8 they deal with them, to be honest with you. So I understand them not knowing, them being a little hard. Some of them got a little better as time went on. Some of them are still like a dick just for no reason. It's just in their nature. With the probation, it was like kind of crazy because I also switched counties multiple times. I was on probation for 3 years. But it was kind of lax in the beginning. And then it gets to the point, especially the last time when I completed it, I was living in Dorchester. So I was in, Suffolk County where Boston is. So I had to go to Marty Mile right there to do the piss test. It's like there's literally like just a street and there's just one of the buildings in there is where you get it done. And I had to call that number every single day and wait for the color, which was super annoying. I'm actually like happy to hear, I don't know what state you're in, but I'm happy to hear that yours isn't as tough, because it's definitely holds you back. And I feel bad for some other people who didn't have time out of their day, or maybe doesn't own a car, has to take a bus just to take the drug test and then a bus back, and then they have work and you have to, like, sometimes they would want me to come, I was in college at the time, and then, I'd be in class or I had work lined up and somehow I'd have to squeeze in, you just have to come at some point during the day, but it's like I have class in another class when I'm going to have to leave campus, or I'm going to like I think I've missed class before to go take it because it was the only time it fit in my day with the schedule. So sometimes stuff like that was like super annoying. My aunt is a lawyer in California, and she had told me if I had gotten my charges in California, I probably would have done no time, would have been a whole different, rehabilitation in the kind of thing that it goes through. But, it's a state-by-state basis. Massachusetts has some pretty tough laws, and they're not going to be necessarily easy on you. And, I completely understand that. I also don't know what court you're in. I don't know if you're in district court or superior court. I also don't know. Like, I got charged with like the felony, like drug trafficking of cocaine, drug trafficking of Percocets. So there's multiple felonies that I have in my superior court. And in my police report and stuff, it says, or even if you're the news or anything, it says that I'm a kingpin of a drug operation. The whole nickname Kingpin Pete was started by Steve. I think maybe Steve was looking up the articles about me and different stuff when Mike told him. And then Steve just created the name Kingpin Pete. It wasn't something I came up with, but definitely when I met people or different stuff, they'd be like, "Oh, Pete, like these are some crazy charges," or "Wow, the story, the police report, all this other stuff's nuts." And I'd be like, "Yep, yeah, I know, I understand." So sometimes, it was people that just treated me way harder. You also said you could smoke with your medical card. I remember that being a big thing, because people would try to say, or people when they were locked up and once you got out and different stuff about med cards, about this and that, they don't give a fuck. You are not using it, because the way that they said to us and however it was explained is when you're on parole, it's like you're doing time, but you're doing time in the streets. So when you're doing time, and there's a medication cart where we get medication all the time, and the medication cart, do you take marijuana when you were locked up? Okay, when you're on parole, you're not taking any marijuana because you weren't taking it when you were locked up. If you're taking, like, other people have some like serious medication or medication that is addicting, And when you go get your medication at the medication chart, maybe they'll crush up the pill and then put it in water to make sure you're taking it and not just trying to sell it or something. But then when you're on parole, then it's like, okay, well, this person's been taking morphine when he was incarcerated. He can take morphine when he's on parole because that makes sense. But with marijuana, it was always, we don't give a fuck if you have a med card. You are not using it at all when you're on probation or on parole. Also, this was a long time ago. Obviously, things have changed now. And again, I don't know what state you're in. But yeah, so going to other random things that came to mind of different people in the units. What I was thinking of, I was at the store honestly, and I saw these like cards where you open them. I don't know if you've seen a CVS or stuff, and like a 3D thing pops out, or something, and it's kind of cool. And then when you close it, everything folds back in and stuff. But people used to just make that with just construction paper. I don't know how people would have these elaborate ones, or some people would even take like manila folders because it's a little tougher, color it with marker and different stuff. You can open it up to like a Christmas tree, all this other stuff, because a lot of people don't have money, or they've burned every last resource that they do have, so they're just trying to get it any way they can, making those and selling them, especially around Christmas time, especially the time around now. You can get cool Thanksgiving ones. I know a lot of my friends and family probably have some cool ones that I gave them, but yeah. There was also people that could take like a picture. So if you had a picture, of whatever, like you and somebody else, they could then copy it in like with colored pencils, literally color the exact same picture that you already have, like almost to a T, like a professional, and they're charging $3-4. That's all they want, because or some custom pieces may go $6 or $7, which is a lot of money in there. But that's how people are getting it. Some of the people are so talented with the things that they can draw. Even on just the envelopes that we send out. It's a white manila envelope, and there's like a pre-stamped stamp in the corner. So there's also actual stamps that you can buy for some reason, but when you buy an envelope, it just comes with a stamp already on it. But people will like draw Mickey Mouse on there, or flowers, or other stuff. So when you write the to and the from, it's actually like a decorated, some of the same stupid ass, white envelope every single time. It's it's something different. So stuff like that only costs like 50 cents or $1, because the guy will just be bored, especially if we're locked in 20-30 hours straight almost. Sometimes if shit's been going on in the unit, then a lot of creative stuff occurs, which is kind of neat. Obviously when you're locked in for a lot of time and different stuff, like you're in the room with somebody else, so you end up talking to them. You learn about different things. I definitely lived with a lot of different interesting people. And I think it was maybe on Kirk's podcast. I don't even know what podcast I was listening to, but they were talking about if people that are illiterate or can't like read or write or stuff. I think it might have been Kirk. I don't remember what podcast it was, but I actually lived with a guy. His name was OG. He was just an old guy. He's from Georgia, middle of nowhere, Georgia. He was like 60, like late 50s, early 60s maybe. He could not read and he could not write, but I would play cards with him all the time. He was so good at cards, so good at cards, and he didn't really have a lot of money, so we could be partners, and you play 2-on-2 when you're playing and stuff. We would play all the time. He lived with me and this other kid when I lived in a triple. But he would literally get letters from his family and stuff, and he would ask us to read them, which was like kind of, sometimes when they're saying something, I don't know, it was sometimes weird just reading it, and he's just really head down, eyes closed, just listening, just want to know what the story is. So that was a pretty interesting experience. Then I would have to write. He would be telling me what to write a letter. Other people sometimes would help him write too. He can't read or write anything. When he was in his 50s and 60s, just been in and out his entire life. Wasn't that bad at chess, but really just was good at playing cards. And he could count, and he could, I don't know. Like we were on I lived with him in minimum security, so he was on a crew with me when we were doing landscaping. And we had to take down this tree, and then the guard obviously wants to have harnesses and making sure everyone's safe and hard hats. And he's like, "Give me this motherfucker." He goes up with a chainsaw and just cuts off the entire branch like in a second. And I was like, and the guard came back with all the harnesses and stuff, and the whole entire tree was already cut up. And we're like, "Yeah, we're all set. Can we go to lunch now?" He's like, "What'd you guys do?" And obviously, like, some guards are just stupid, and they're young kids, and they don't realize you can't just leave us alone. But that guy was definitely interesting. But even sometimes, like, people that obviously could read and write would come and be like, "Hey, can you write a request for me? Especially when you have to write requests to the state. You have to write requests to, I don't know, to hire up people at the facility or certain things. They want to make sure the handwriting was right. So someone would write it and say, hey, can you copy this word for word? Or, there's a ton of people, at least, that I was friends with or saw that had English was their second language. So with people like that, don't just make grammatical errors and stuff where the person reading it is just going to judge them. And they know that. So they'll ask people to proofread stuff. I don't think of myself as the most well-educated. I'm not a writer. I'm a math guy. But I would still, catch grammatical errors when I was rewriting stuff and helping these guys out and what they needed. Some of them have such bad handwriting, and they would it was crazy because they could be so thankful just for having good handwriting, let alone like any of the other stuff. Another thing someone asked me about was like snitches, or like how does it work with snitches. So a lot of the time people have their paperwork on them. They kind of said when you got arrested and everything that went on, and people just have their paperwork ready to present. Other people didn't. Not everybody did. I didn't, because I didn't realize. No one ever told me like, hey, when you go in, bring your paperwork. Nobody told me that. But there's obviously guards that are on the in and different people on the in, and they can just kind of, if people are sketched out about you or something, then they can just have someone check your paperwork on the outside. Paying off police or whatever, talking to police, and make sure that you're legit. But even if they know you're not legit, or like, hey, I was locked up with that guy 2 years ago in Walpole, like I know that guy does this, I know this guy's a snitch or that. Some people kind of just stay away. If they really violated an entire gang or something, then they'll just get attacked, and when you get attacked, the attacker and both people have to leave the unit, go to solitary and all that other fun stuff. But a very popular thing, it's called a buck 50. Buck 50. It's when they take the corner of your mouth here, right, with a knife, and they'll just, you can Google it. Maybe you can Google it. Google like buck 50 prison. I've never Googled it. Maybe it's there, maybe it's not. And they'll make like a crescent up the side of the face, and it'll leave a permanent scar the rest of their life. Now the thing is, old school gangsters used to do this, like back, in the 70s, 80s, when they were using knives for violence. Nowadays everybody has guns, no one does it. So they used to just do that to people in the street. But then prison culture took it over, and that just means the mark of a snitch. If you have that mark. But there was some older guys that I've met that had the thing, and it was like, some people would say that he's a snitch. Other people would be like, oh yeah, that's an old thing from like 78 when he got in this cocaine deal and I don't know, whatever. But the buck 50 thing was definitely interesting when I've seen like 3 people with it, and I was like, why would anyone want that? And someone explained to me that nobody wants it, that's actually really bad. And I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Thank you for letting me know. Another one that's actually kind of disgusting. But it was for the females, people would say. So it was called a cock rock. Okay, so a cock rock is when you take your penis, right, and it's flaccid, and you're just going to pull the top of the excess skin up, right? So once you pull the top of the excess skin up, they'll take a very sharp object and just like go through it. So now you basically have 2 holes. But now you basically have a hole, not 2 holes. You basically have like 1 hole. They take the skin, right? Now they have a hole underneath your skin. Someone else will take like a domino, right? And it takes a long time, but people can carve them into shapes. Most popular one is a heart, right? So then you take the domino, and then somehow sanitize it. I don't know what the fuck they did. I've never seen it, but I've been in units where a lot of people have done it. And then you slide it on top of your penis, and then you kind of bandage it up, and the skin itself will heal. It'll close the wound and all the other stuff. And then when it heals, basically the rock is still in on the top of the penis shaft. The thought is like, when you get out and then you're pleasuring a woman, you are now, hitting the clitoris with this thing that's now bulging out of the top. Some people got entire rings around, kind of just to make like a cock ring, but underneath the skin. It is weird. It is definitely very weird. Because dominoes go missing all the time. Then you just ask the guard, like, hey, we just need the the blank 2 domino. Can we have another one? And then they'll just whip it out and just give it to you. In case, so people stealing it and carving them and stuff isn't that uncommon. But I lived in multiple different units that did this, and I thought that it was kind of weird. It's actually super weird. Especially sometimes there would be cellmates would do it for each other, like, because you need, the pain obviously is so bad that you have to have your cellmate is the one that's taking the skin up and banging it. Oh my god, it's gross. But that's life on the block. All right, 20 minutes, I'll stop. See you next week. Good luck.